How are you guys doing? Today is Thursday, May 6th, 2021, out here in this quarantine. I'm James Sims, and for this episode of The Elite, I'm going to do an individual profile on Jose Altuve, the Elite starting second baseman for the Houston Astros, who, of course, is a very controversial character as of nowadays because, of course, the Astros did admit to cheating in the 2017 World Series, but, of course, they got immunity for it. So at the end of the day, I mean, it's their championship and they may have cheated, but Jose Altuve is one hell of a baseball player. If you're unfamiliar with who Jose Altuve is, he stands about 5'8", 5'9" He's very small, but he carries a lot of, or for a baseball player, he's pretty small and he has a lot of pop. He's an amazing contact hitter. And I think like reading out his numbers and his stats and his accolades, I think would do him a lot of justice to help people understand why many people are so torn as to how to feel about him. He's one of the best baseball players that I've probably ever seen. And I imagine that this whole cheating thing is it's never going to go away, but I still think that Jose Altuve is definitely a second baseman who sets himself apart from the rest of the MLB. And he's been in kind of a rough spell recently compared to his best years of baseball, but he's still far and away one of the best baseball players that this world has ever seen. So just to give a little bit of background, he's originally from Maracay, Venezuela. He would eventually attend a Houston Astros tryout camp, and he would eventually get signed by the Houston Astros organization. He would get called up by the Astros in his age 21 season in 2011. This is when the Houston Astros were in the National League. He would play 57 games in a season where the Astros would finish with a 56-106 record, which was the worst record in the National League Central when they had 6 teams, so just to add insult to injury. In his very first season, he would finish with 61 hits in those 57 games, more hits than games played, 26 runs. So we had 10 doubles in those 57 games with 2 home runs, 12 RBIs, with a 276 batting average next to a 654 OPS. Of course, I mean, not really on anyone's radar, but of course you have to start from somewhere. He would get his first full season under his belt in his last season in the National League with the Astros. In his age 22 season, he would play 147 games in a season where the Astros would finish with a 55-107 record. They had one less win than the previous season, and Justin Maxwell was named the Defensive Player of the Year. But regardless, Jose Altuve in his first full season in the MLB would be named an all-star because, of course, every team needed an all-star. In the 147 games he played, he finished with 167 hits, which, of course, more than the 162 games and that are possible, and 20 more hits than games played, 34 doubles, 7 home runs, 37 RBIs, with 33 stolen bases. Of course, the first time he topped 30 stolen bases, with a 290 batting average and a 740 OPS. And of course, after being named an all-star for the first time in his first full season, he caught the eye of baseball critics and baseball analysts, especially as someone that finished with 167 hits in his first full season in the majors. His next full season would be in 2013, the first year that the Houston Astros would transition to the American League West. In his third season with Houston, he would play 132 games for a Houston Astros team that would finish with a 51-111 record. They had 4 less wins than the previous season. And in this season, Jose Altuve would miss the All-Star game, but in this season he had 177 hits in 152 games. He had 64 runs, 31 doubles, the second time he had at least 30 doubles in his career, 5 home runs against 52 RBIs. He had 35 stolen bases, the second time he had at least 30 stolen bases. He got caught stealing 13 times, the first time he actually led the American League in times caught stolen. He would finish with a 283 batting average. The third time he had at least a 270. Second time he had at least a 280. He finished with a 678 OPS. And even though the Astros wouldn't make the All-Star game, the fact that this man was finished, he had at least 160 hits 2 seasons in a row. Many people would not forget the level of impact. And this was right before he would put together what could quite possibly be the most impressive 4-year string of baseball in MLB history. In 2014, his fourth season with the Astros, he would play 158 games in a season where the Astros would finish with a 70-92 record. That's the that would be the fourth best record in the American League West, as they had won 19 more games in the previous season. In this particular season, Jose Altuve would finish with 225 hits in 158 games. Not to mention how hard it is to get 200 hits. He had 225 hits. This is the most hits, of course, he'd ever have in a season in his MLB career. Well, this is the most he'd ever have in a season, but 225 is ridiculous. He, of course, would lead the American League in hits. He finished with 85 runs on the season in those 158 games, 47 doubles, the first time he eclipsed 40. He had 7 home runs against 59 RBIs. He led the American League in stolen bases with 56. Not that many people can steal 50 bases in a game. He finished with a 341 batting average, which, of course, led the American League. And he would go on to finish with an 830 OPS, the highest OPS he'd ever put up in a season. He will be named an All-Star for the second time in his in his third full season in the MLB. This will be his second All-Star season, and this will be the first time he was ever named a Silver Slugger in his career. This would transition into his fifth season in Houston, in his age 25 season. He would play 154 games in a season where the Astros finished with an 86-76 record. They had won 16 more games in the previous season. That would be a 35-game increase over their previous 2 seasons since he had first gotten there. And this is the season when Dallas Keuchel won the Cy Young Award. But regardless, in 2015, Jose Altuve would lead the American League in at-bats, but he would finish with 200 hits in those 154 games. This would be the second year in his career which he would finish with at least 200 hits in his career. His fourth season in a row in which he finished with at least 162 hits, which is as many games as you can play in a season. He finished with 40 doubles for the second time in his MLB career. He had 15 home runs, the most home runs he'd ever hit, alongside 66 RBIs. 38 stolen bases, the second time in his MLB career. He led the American League in stolen bases. This will be the fourth season in a row he stole at least 30 bases. He got caught stealing 13 times. The third time he'd been caught stealing double-digit times. The second time he had led the American League in times he was caught stealing. He finished with a 313 batting average. The second time he finished with at least a 300 batting average. He had a 812 OPS. The second time he finished with an OPS above 800. He would be named an All-Star for the third time in his fourth full season in the MLB. He would be named 10th in MVP voting. He would be given a Silver Slugger for the second year in a row, and for the very first time and the only time in his career, Jose Altuve was given a Gold Glove award, which is something that it's rare that most players can get the Gold Glove and the Silver Slugger, meaning he was the best offensive and the best defensive second baseman in all of baseball in the American League in 2015. Following this season, they would go on to the playoffs. They beat the Yankees in the wild card game, and they would eventually lose to the Royals in the American League Divisional Series the year that the Royals would go on and win the World Series as a whole. But of course, this would be, once again, a second straight year of amazing baseball from Jose Altuve, and you just see him get a little bit better. After they lost to the Royals, Jose Altuve would come back for his sixth year in Houston. In his sixth year, he would play 161 games, the most games he would ever play in a season. And in his age 26 season, like I said, in those 161 games, the Astros would finish with an 84-78 record. They had lost 2 more games than they had won the previous season. They had missed the playoffs completely. But in this season, Jose Altuve would finish with 216 hits in 161 games, the second most amount of hits that he would ever put together in a season in his career. This is the third season in a row he would finish with at least 200 hits. The fifth season in a row he finished with at least 160. He had 100 runs for the very first time in his MLB career. He had 42 doubles. The third season in a row he finished with at least 40 doubles. He finished with 24 home runs, the first time he's ever put up at least 20. 96 RBIs, the first time he put up at least 90 RBIs. He stole 30 bases for the fifth season in a row. He got caught stealing 10 times, so that's the fourth time in the last 5 in that 5-year span in which he had been caught stealing. He finished with a 338 batting average, which led the American League for the second time in a 3-year span. This is the second time in 3 years he's led the league in hits and batting average in the same season. He finished with a 928 OPS, which is the highest OPS he had put up in his career at that point. He would be named an All-Star for the 4th time in his first 5 full seasons in the MLB. He would be named 3rd in MVP voting this year, and this is the year that Mike Trout and Mookie Betts finished ahead of him. And he would go on to win his 3rd straight Silver Slugger award at the second base position. And of course, he would continue to show, his elite baseball would continue into his 4th year of this amazing stretch. In 2017, his 7th year with the Houston Astros, Jose Altuve would play 153 games in a season where the Astros have finished with a 101-61 record. This would be the first time since 1998 in which the Astros had put up this many wins in a season. So of course this was unprecedented, and Jose Altuve, along with a bunch of other players, would come together to help make this possible. In his 4th straight season of Silver Slugger, of being a Silver Slugger player, he would finish with 204 hits in 153 games. This would be the 4th season in a row he finished with 200 hits. I don't know how many players in MLB history can say that they've done that, but he did it. He led the American League in hits for the 4th year in a row. Very tough to lead an entire league in hits for 4 straight seasons. He finished with 39 doubles on the season. This would be the 6th straight season in which he finished with at least 30 doubles on the season. He had 24 home runs. Second season in a row, he had 24 home runs. He had 81 RBIs, the 2nd season in a row in which he put up 80 RBIs in a season. He had 32 stolen bases, the 6th season in a row in which he stole at least 30 bases. He finished with a 346 batting average, which is the highest batting average that he's ever put up in a season in a career to date. And he would finish with a 957 OPS. He has never posted a higher batting average or OPS in his career. He would be named an All-Star for the 4th year in a row, and for the 5th time in his first 6 seasons in the MLB. He would be named a Silver Slugger for the 4th year in a row, and he would be given the MVP of the entire American League, of course, following what would be an amazing 4-year stretch in which he led the American League in hits 3 times, in which he had at least 200 of them, and he led the American League in batting average 3 of those 4 years, in which he hit 300 for all 4 of those years, and at least 330 for 3 of those 4. Following this season, the Houston Astros would make it they would go to the playoffs. They would beat the Red Sox in the ALDS in 4. They beat the Yankees in the championship series in 7, the year I think that Aaron Judge was a rookie. And then they would beat the Los Angeles Dodgers in 7. At the end of the day, they found out that they did cheat, but the Astros received complete immunity and they get to keep their trophy. So at the end of the day, it's still their trophy. And at the end of the day, Jose Altuve was able to be one of the players that brought home a regular season MVP and a championship. That would, of course, change the course of their franchise forever, because the Astros had not won a World Series up until 2017. So, of course, it will go down as it will be a historic year. And at the same time, this is the year that Justin Verlander came over halfway through the year and helped them win the championship as well. But 2017 is a year that will go down it'll be a year that will go down in history for Houston, and it will go down in infamy for the rest of baseball fans around the league. Following the 2017 season, Jose Altuve would come back for 2018, his age 28 season, his 8th season with the Houston Astros. In this season, he would play 137 games in a season where the Astros would finish with a 103-59 record. They won 2 more games than they did the previous season. And in this season, Altuve would finish with 169 hits in 137 games. And first of all, in this season, he would be named an All-Star for his 5th straight season and his 6th time in his first 7 complete seasons in the league. He finished with 84 runs. This would be the 5th season in a row he finished with at least 80 runs, 6 in the last 7 years. He would finish with 29 doubles, 13 home runs against 61 RBIs with a 316 batting average. The 5th season in a row he finished with at least a 300 batting average. He had an 837 OPS. The fifth season in a row, he had at least an 800 OPS, and so he would be named a Silver Slugger for the fifth year in a row, and he has not been named a Silver Slugger or an All-Star since the 2018 season. In 2019, his season would actually be pretty injury plagued, as he only played 124 of the games, and a season where the Astros would finish 107-55. This would be the year that Verlander won the Cy Young Award. And then Alex Bregman and George Springer won their Silver Sluggers. Zach Greinke won a Gold Glove. Yordan Alvarez won the Rookie of the Year. A lot was going well for the Astros. Specifically for Jose Altuve in 2019, he would finish with 149 hits in the 124 games that he played. He had 27 doubles, 31 home runs, the most home runs he would ever put up in a season, with 74 RBIs. He finished with a .298 batting average, the first time since 2013 in which he did not put up a batting average above 300, but still incredibly high. He still finished with a .903 OPS, the third highest OPS he put up in his career to date. But regardless, he would not make an All-Star game. But once they made the playoffs, the Astros would end up beating the Rays in the first round in 5. They beat the Yankees in 6 in the championship series, and they would end up losing to the Nationals in the World Series, in a series that definitely shocked the world. But that was what the Astros were in for in 2019. This would transition them into the 2020 season, in which was heavily impacted by COVID to the point where every team had to shorten their schedules to a 60-game season. And this season was incredibly tough for the Astros, considering Justin Verlander had to leave in his very first game, so they were definitely short one of their best players. But in 48 games, Jose Altuve would finish with 42 hits. 32 runs in those 48 games, 5 home runs, 18 RBIs with a .219 batting average, which was an outlier season for which would affect a lot of other players as well. Following the season, the Astros would actually make the playoffs. They had the second best record in the AL West, despite having a losing record. They would beat the Twins in the wild card in 2. They beat the Athletics in 4 in the ALDS, but they would lose to the Rays in 7 this most recent season, but Jose Altuve would have a big impact on the team there. And this would all transition into the current season that we're in now, as we are fresh into this 2021 season. As we are, like I said, we're just entering May. Thus far through the season, Altuve has about 28 hits through 24 games this season, with a .283 batting average, 735 OPS. And the Astros are slated to play against the New York Yankees. So I mean, it's gonna be very interesting to see how this matchup fares today, especially as they are prepared to face off against the Blue Jays. In this season, Jose Altuve looks to be doing pretty fine. He has a .283 batting average, 735 OPS. I mean, it's been a second since he's returned to form, but his last full-ish season, he's performed incredibly well. So it's just a matter of waiting and just waiting to see when he blows up, because he is such an electric baseball player. This is a player that's finished with 200 hits in 4 straight seasons and put together what could possibly be one of the most impressive 4-year hitting stretches in baseball history. And with that said, I mean, today he only turns 31 years old. He has a lot of his MLB career ahead of him. And I think for 2021, Jose Altuve needs to be recognized as one of the world's most elite athletes, especially playing baseball for the Astros. If you ever get a chance to watch him, he's wearing number 27. And once again, I want to thank everyone for listening to all 19 minutes of this piece. I hope all is well. And if you ever get a chance to watch him, check out this tiny man wearing number 27 for the Astros, who's been able to win an American League MVP and 5 Silver Sluggers, along with the Hank Aaron Award as well. Once again, thanks for listening to this piece. I hope all is well. I want to wish Jose Altuve a happy 31st birthday. And once all of today's exhibitions are done, I will come with another installment of the Elite once this is done. So once again, peace out, and I'll catch you guys tomorrow.